Hey there, Sooner football fans. Parker Thune, Jesse Crittenden here with you on the OU Insider YouTube channel. Fall camp is underway. It's been a long time coming, but we're a week deep into fall camp at the University of Oklahoma. The Sooners open their non-conference slate and open the 2023 season, year two under Brent Venables, in what is it now, Jesse? Just a little bit more than 3 weeks against Arkansas State here in Norman. However, the focus of today's video, and really the focus of the next few weeks up until the Sooners take the field, is going to be what's going on in fall camp on the practice field, who's standing out, who's making waves. And I want to add this disclaimer, this caveat up front. We're just trying to tell you what's happening on the practice field and who's standing out. It is as simple as that. We're not trying to tell you this guy's going to be an all-conference performer. Heck, this guy's going to be a starter. This guy is going to win this positional battle. No, we got 3 weeks of fall camp left to determine some of those things. And ultimately, there are guys that pop off in fall camp and never do a dang thing on the field once the season rolls around. So take everything with a grain of salt. Our jobs as reporters is just to tell you who we're hearing good buzz about. And so, Jesse, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. We've gotten to see a few sessions, media viewings at practice over the first week of camp. Obviously, we've heard some stuff behind the scenes on who's made early impressions on the coaching staff. But offensively, is there anybody that's caught your eye or caught your ear, perhaps, that surprises you at all?
I don't know if surprises is the right word, but it's been enough to make me rethink about the position group as a whole. It's Nick Anderson. That's the guy that has stood out to me, I think, almost more than anybody on the entire team. And you and I have talked about it. I think going into the season, I projected Andrew Anthony as that third starter. I think I've changed my tune a little bit. Not only
Oh, here
just
we go.
I figured that'd make you happy. Not from what I've seen. I mean, he's already getting, first group reps during practice drills and, and individual drills. I think that's pretty telling in its own. And we're not even just talking about the intangibles, his size, 6'4", the athleticism, bringing much needed size to that wide receiver room. But I mean, I also think it's the way he carries himself. I think there's a confidence there. I think that's really made an impression. His name has come up several times, with people around the program. Other teammates of his are really talking him up. And that's made me think, my only doubt about him going into the season was he didn't see the field a lot last season. He dealt with injuries, but he's healthy. I got to talk to him a little bit, before fall camp began. I think he's in a really good mindset. He brings obvious needs to this wide receiver group. And I think he might be the guy that stood out to me the most.
Man, yeah. I am never going to shy away from Nick Anderson hype, but I made this comment on the Under the Visor podcast the other day, and so I'll regurgitate it. And I want people to take this comment at face value and understand what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. But Nick Anderson, first off, that dude has made tremendous gains, and you can tell in Jerry Schmidt's workout program. But we already kind of knew this about Nick Anderson. You can see it all the more now. That is a first-round body. If you were talking about sheer physique, like what you expect to see from a dominant player at the wide receiver position, Nick Anderson fits the mold, right? And obviously, first-round body doesn't always translate to first-round production. But if Nick Anderson is fully healthy, man, it's tough to watch that guy run around on the practice field and figure that's not somebody that's going to have a tremendous impact on this offense in 2023. So with you all the way, been on that train a long time. Jaquez Pettaway as a true freshman, really the only true freshman in the wide receiver room at Oklahoma, because of course Keon Brown didn't qualify academically. Pettaway, I think you could tell from Jeff Lebby's comments at his availability last week that he's really excited about Jaquez Pettaway, and it's easy to see why when you see him on the practice field. I don't know if it's because they wear the same jersey number, but you can definitely see a little bit of Marvin Mims in the way that he plays. He's not the biggest wide receiver, 5'11", maybe 6 feet on a good day. But, man, he's built, he's muscular, he's fast, he's explosive. He's a technically precise route runner. And so I know for a fact he's run with the ones quite a bit through the first week of camp. Again, it's week one. Whether or not that holds is yet to be determined. But really liking some of the things I've heard about Jaquez Petaway to this point. Another guy that I'll throw out there from the freshman group is Cade McIntyre at the tight end position. And obviously that the starting job at tight end belongs to Austin Stogner. That is not a question. But with Caden Helms dealing with injury, with Blake Smith only having 2 career catches to his name at Texas A&M, there's definitely a window for a guy like McIntyre, even as a true freshman, to play his way into the 2 deep, and have heard some really impressive things through week 1. So again, like, you take it all with a grain of salt because it's a freshman and you got a long way to go before the season starts. But Petaway and McIntyre, 2 freshmen amongst the June crop of arrivals that have generated some strong buzz to this point. Okay, Jesse, defensively, and I would say I would hazard a guess that you, like me, have spent more time analyzing the defense in the open practice sessions that we've been a part of. Obviously, you'll hear all sorts of stuff behind the scenes, and we'll dig into that in just a moment. But on a surface level, who on defense besides the very obvious, right? We know Danny Stutzman's going to play. We know Billy Bowman's going to play. Who else has been eye-opening to you thus far?
I'll give you 2 names, one on the D line, one in the secondary: Dejon Terry and Peyton Bowen. That is who. Dejon Terry is just a big guy on the defense.
He is a big guy. Yes, indeed.
That's just a big dude.
Straight up.
It stood out to me first when we got to talk to him before fall camp started, but seeing him on the field, not only next to the defensive line, but just compared to the rest of the team. OU just didn't have that kind of size last year, and he's really nimble and more explosive than I expected him to be, considering his size at 6'4", 321 pounds. I caught a moment and actually put it on the OU Insider board a couple of days ago where they were going through drills and Todd Bates stopped him on a rep, made him do it again, and not only you could see Dejon Terry take that in stride, but Todd Bates was clearly taking some extra, like putting aside some extra time to get Dejon Terry through that drill. Second time he did it, he loved it. Todd Bates loved it. And so, I think it's just one of those guys that, I think a lot of people, just the size he brings, obviously he can make an impact on the defensive line. I am more and more convinced just through the first couple of practices we've seen. And then Peyton Bowen, we've talked about him a lot. But seeing him in fall camp, it's no longer the spring. He's gotten some practices under his belt. Seeing him next to veterans like Key Lawrence and Billy Bowman and Reggie Pearson, not only does he not look like a freshman, he looks like he looks like a veteran. He doesn't seem out of place at all. He seems to be the standout when I watch that secondary group, that safeties group. And, Red Venables mentioned him as a guy who could maybe get some reps in at Cheetah. So overall, I'm just more and more convinced that Peyton Bowen is going to make a huge impact on this defense as a freshman.
Yeah, if I want to stick with the defensive line to start, you mentioned Terry, and that's certainly a guy that has stood out, no question about that. Another guy that really caught my eye, and I think it's because of the very conspicuous bulk that he's added, is Grayson Halton. And as a freshman last year, Grayson Halton was kind of stuck in no man's land. He played quite a bit, but as I saw it, and I think as many people saw it, he was too small to be a defensive tackle, and he was too heavy to be an edge rusher. Well, now he's bulked up to the neighborhood of 290 pounds, and he looks the part of a defensive tackle. He looks like he's going to be an interior guy, and he started to work with Todd Bates' group as opposed to Miguel Chavis's group, which is a change from last season. So he's repping with the defensive tackles. Just looks really good. I don't know how else to put it in terms of the power that he shows in individual drills, the way that he carries that weight. Man, I don't know if he starts this year, but I think that's more so one guy that I have circled as a potential rotational impact guy in 2023, but somebody that I do think makes his impression as a starter, makes his move into the starting lineup come 2024. And definitely a guy that is going to help with that transition to the SEC, provided he maintains his course of development. So Halton, I would say one guy that caught my eye at defensive line more so than the rest. PJ Adabar, I mean, that dude just dwarfs all the other defensive ends, and Oklahoma doesn't have scrubs at defensive ends, but you can just tell PJ's cut a little bit different. Heard some really, really nice things about Reggie Pearson, the 6th-year senior, and everybody wants the freshman buzz. Josiah Wagner and Lewis Carter, there you go, 2 guys that have opened eyes on the practice field. Wagner, he had a strong spring. Carter just got here in June, so he's new to the scene. But those two are performing well from all that I have heard. But Reggie Pearson, man, we've talked so much about Billy Bowman, and we talked so much about Peyton Bowen. I feel as though Reggie Pearson hasn't been talked about enough. That's somebody I expect to have a cornerstone role in the secondary for Oklahoma, somebody that I expect to start every game barring injury. And if he is the same type of player that he was last year at Texas Tech, I think he is going to help drastically improve Oklahoma's play in the defensive backfield, which is a position group, Jesse, that hasn't been a legitimate strength for this program in a long time.
No, and I think and I'm glad you shouted out Reggie Pearson, because any buzz about Peyton Bowen is warranted, but Reggie Pearson is going to play a lot. He's going to bring a veteran presence to this secondary that I think is going to be really necessary. And like you said, I mean, I think the secondary could be the strongest part of the defense in 2023. I really do. The only other position group I'll shout out actually that has just impressed me as a whole, and I'm a little more confident than I was heading before fall camp, is the offensive line. I really think the offensive line has made some strides. Savion Byrd is a guy that's really stood out. I think he's going to have a big role. Aaron Parks is another guy that, despite all of the weirdness during the offseason with entering the transfer portal, not during the transfer portal, I don't know if this offensive line group is not going to be the best that Bill Bedenbaugh or OU has ever seen, but I think the offensive line group is going to be pretty solid, and I think it's pretty clear that they've made some strides during the offseason.
Well, I'll say this much. No, I don't think it'll be the best that OU's ever seen. I'm of the opinion, based on some of the things that I've heard and just my overall evaluation of each of the individuals that are going to make up Oklahoma's starting offensive line, I'll bet you this is the strongest Oklahoma offensive line that we have seen since 2018 when they won the Joe Moore Award. So I'm bullish on that offensive line, and it should be a banner year for both Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes as they cruise through those holes. Well, that's a wrap on the first installment of Camp Buzz, if that's what you want to call it. But obviously, like I said, we're a week in, everything's pretty fresh. And of course, no, you're not going to hear a lot of bad buzz after 1 week of camp. So continue to stay updated with OU Insider at OUinsider.com, as well as on this YouTube channel for all of the latest out of Oklahoma fall camp. The season gets closer and closer every day, and as it does, we've got you covered wall to wall on OUinsider.com and here on this YouTube channel. For Jesse Crittenden, I'm Parker Thune. Take it easy. We'll see you soon.